final part of our program today. We're going to finish off with two speakers. And the first one is a professor who's going to speak about the continuity of the Assyrian identity and the role of the diaspora. Please welcome Professor Joseph Yaqub.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. لقد حوث عطية يقرأ أحمد أفران يقرأ أخونا زغية كمشو بريخو زهيو بلاي عامل أخروي شلوم عليكم كمشا بريخة زهية بلاي أمن أطرائي كبلاي شانا لوكن عم حوبي ويفوري عم خبري بقاري يقرتو أوثو عطية. As it was said, the topic of my speech is about the continuity of the Assyrian identity and the role of diaspora. To be sure, I will mix English, French, and Assyrian. In my talk, I have divided it on four subjects. First of all, is about how the Assyrian identity didn't disappear since 612 before Christ. I think it is a big issue for us. Le premier point de mon exposé, c'est comment l'identité assyrienne n'a pas disparu depuis la chute de Nénive en 612 avant Jésus-Christ. I mean that this name Assyrian is absolutely not a new invention made by British people when they were in Mesopotamia, Iraq. Contrary to what was said, شموخن شما الإنجليزنا يوقعتوخن. Voilà, c'est ce qu'on répète souvent. The first reply to this thing is the name. We have many proofs that we have this name. We have proofs beginning by Alexander the Great. When Alexander the Great colonized Mesopotamia in the 3rd century before Christ, he used the term Assyria. It was used. After him, during the Roman Empire, when Trajan, l'empereur Trajan, occupied Mesopotamia, he gave the name of Assyria to the north of Mesopotamia. It's something we have many evidences, many proof about it. I wrote a lot about this subject. c'est-à-dire que ce mot d'assyrien n'a pas été inventé. Beaucoup disent que ce sont les Anglais qui l'ont inventé. Or, ce terme existe depuis Alexandre le Grand. Alexandre le Grand, qui colonisa la Mésopotamie en 312 avant Jésus-Christ. Et l'empereur romain Trajan, qui visita la Mésopotamie, il appela toute la région d'Artaïab, de Arbel, de Nénué, il l'appela Assyrie. And it's something registered in the documents and the maps of Mesopotamia during this period. Another proof is Tatianus. Tatianus was a big philosopher of our community. Tatianus, in the beginning of the second century, he wrote, I am Assyrian. He wrote the document, I am Assyrian. We have Beroz, who was Babylonian during the Greek period. He wrote a book entitled Babyloniaca in Greek language, in order to make knowledge about this the Assyrian Babylonian civilization to the Greeks, and so on. We have many proof. C'est ce terme d'assyrien a été, c'est faux de dire que c'est un terme qui existe depuis 100 ans, hein, comme beaucoup le disent. C'est faux. Ce terme, on a beaucoup de preuves, on a beaucoup d'évidences. Bon, je n'ai pas le temps malheureusement de développer. In Syriac sources, I want to mention Michael Rabo, Michael the Great, Maktab Zabno, Michael the Great, Barak Broyo, and so on, and many others. We have a very important analysis on our identity. We can refer to the book because it's something we need it now. We need it about the name and about the division occurred in our community upon our name. The second factor is about the importance of the excavation made in Mesopotamia since 1840. Les découvertes faites en Mésopotamie à partir de 1840. Because the excavation and archaeological discoveries have revealed how the civilization was rich and important. And immediately after this day, our community reacted promptly, rapidly, in Hakkari, in Tur Abdin, in Urmi, in Salamis, in Mosul, saying we are Syrian. Naum Faik is one of them. We have to refer now to this document issued in Diyarbakir, in Mardin, in Iraq. The patriarch of the Assyrian Church in Hakkari declared in 1850, nous sommes Assyriens, we are Assyrians. And then we can enlarge our scope, proving that the name of Assyrian we have to be open Chaldean, Babylonian, Aramean were used, but in the same sense. In the same sense. Coming after the Assyrians in diaspora, Assyrians in diaspora, past et present. Past et present. Les Assyriens en diaspora, passé et présent. The Assyrian diaspora didn't start in the last century. The Assyrian people, the first who immigrated from Turabdin, one of them now five, was in the United States. I have been in Argentina, where I met the Syrian community there, and some Assyrian in Cordoba, and many Assyrian living in the south of Buenos Aires. The bishop invited me to give a lecture. I was very happy because I met many people coming from Turabdin, from Homs, mainly from Homs, from Hama, from Aleppo, and our joy was shared. It was something, and when I discussed with them about the death of the immigration, the first who arrived to South America, America Taineta, who arrived there in Brazil, in Argentina, in Mexico, is 1880. 1880, the first. So, notre présence en diaspora n'est pas quelque chose de relativement récent. Tout à l'heure, mon ami Anthony a très bien expliqué la présence de la communauté en France. Donc, on peut y ajouter aussi ceux qui sont partis bien avant. The first Assyrians arrived to France is 1810, 1810. 1810. Many of them were Syriac, belonging to the Syriac church in Marsilia. And so we have to make research about the subject and not to speak only about Assyria. Assyria is not a myth. Assyria is a reality. The fourth point is how to speak to Europe. Comment parler à l'Europe? Il ne suffit pas de dire l'Europe, la Commission, le Conseil, le Parlement, mais comment lui parler? How to speak to Europe. And the attached question to this, a sub-question, is what does Europe want? Que veut l'Europe? Personne ne pose cette question. Que veut l'Europe? Comment parler à l'Europe? Et que veut l'Europe? Especially now, because Europe is in crisis, is in identity crisis. All the European societies, Netherlands, one of them, Germany now, France, Great Britain, Sweden, Denmark, Norway, the European society are changing now. And then what will be the future of multiculturalism here is very important. Right? There are a rise of identity hegemony which are very dominant in the debate now. And what do you want? What do we want in speaking with Europe? What do we want? Personally, I don't know. I am working in the Assyrian question, the Assyrian field, for more than 40 years. And I can honestly tell you, I don't know what Assyrians want. Ça fait plus de 40 ans que je travaille dans ce domaine. Je consacre presque tout mon temps. Et j'avoue, je ne sais pas. Je ne sais pas. I don't know. Ça, c'est une grande question. Is a key issue. Is a key issue. Qu'est-ce qu'on veut? Permettez-moi, dans ce cadre, please apologize. I would like to give some ideas. What we need now urgently, qu'est-ce que nous voulons aujourd'hui de manière urgente, is to preserve our language, our culture. Without language, without culture, there are no identity. Without language, without culture, there are no identity, and maybe identity will disappear. Moi, j'ai rencontré des Assyriens qui sont venus en France dans les années 1920. I met some Assyrians when I was active, I still active, when I was active in the field of Assyrians in France. I remember from one Assyrian called me from Bordeaux, city of Bordeaux, and I met him in Lyon. And I think my parents came from Urmia, but I don't know more. I am not religious, I am atheist. It's your opinion, c'est votre avis. And imagine the same question to Assyrians after 2 or 3 generations. We have to think a lot about this subject because it's linked to our future, to our identity, to our future. Si je dis le mot identité en syriaque, combien de gens savent ce que c'est identité? Combien de gens? Hiyayuthu. Combien de gens savent? Or, if language is not preserved, I mean by language the Ktobonoyo. Who know Mikhail Rabo? Who know, as I know, I am sure, I am sure, but it's a very little minority between us. Imagine we want a state, 300 or 400 of Assyrians read Assyrian now. 3 or 4% of Assyrian. We will not be served by English language. Je crois que c'est consequently maybe I suggest we have no center of documentation and center of information. We spoke this morning about media. The responsibility is our responsibility. It's not the responsibility of European people. It's our responsibility. Because we are very weak in this field, right? And we are accustomed to give responsibility to foreign peoples. That's something in our imaginary, not something recent. We need the center of documentation. Before representative to Europe, what we want. L'exemple, qu'est-ce qu'on veut? Qu'est-ce qu'on veut? Centre de documentation, on n'en a pas. Ou on a peut-être un ici ou là, mais quelque chose de... Then I think center of documentation, center of information, first of all. Priority is the center of information. And it's something important for our future. And Taudi Said, thank you very much. I can reply to your questions freely. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. So, with those words, we welcome our final speaker. Her name is Flera, and she will talk about Sulma Khanum, a patriotic and worldwide known lady. Welcome up.
Bonjour à tous, good afternoon, and many thanks for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here with you and to present something about Soma. I apologize, I will read my paper a little bit so I can translate it in French for our friends. Since a long time I have been in touch with the Assyrian question. So, among the topics which drove my attention in the modern Assyrian history was an Assyrian lady, Soma who played an important role during and after the Great War. No? It's okay? I think a story might be a good subject of research and could give sense for people to understand the tragedy of the Assyrian nation. So I chose to write a biography of Soma. I started by collecting documents from different places in order to build the chronology of her life step by step. I traveled several times to England, to Cyprus to collect these documents, and since now I'm continuing to gather documents about Lady Soma. Je résume juste en français en quelques mots. Ça fait maintenant longtemps que je travaille sur cette personnalité qui est Soma Khanum et qui m'a pris pas mal de temps pour justement écrire sa biographie. Et chaque jour, je découvre encore des choses sur elle, des papiers dans les médias que je n'avais pas découverts il y a quelque temps, et puis ça me passionne toujours autant. Depuis 10 ans, since 10 years, I'm in this subject. It's always for me, it's raising my curiosity, always since then. I will just focus on 5 points about her life and her story. I'm sure she is perhaps the first Assyrian woman lobbyist. I think so. Soma was a clever and well-educated woman, a great eyewitness between 1915 and 1918, a political leader and ambassador after the war, a deported leader to Cyprus in August 1933, and perhaps an example to follow today. We will see. You know, Soma was living in the Hagari Mountains, in the village of Kochanes. The seat of the Church of the East was in this little village during the 6th century. She was an eminent member of the Marshamun family, the patriarchal family Marshamun. Mar Benjamin, who is well known, was her brother. Before and after the war, we can find testimonies about her qualities. I can mention many people about this. For example, the Sisters of Bethany, the Anglican and Presbyterian missionary like Reverend Wigwam, Reverend Shedd, Reverend Lavery, or personality like Lord Davidson, the Archbishop of Canterbury, Lord Curzon, British Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs, Mrs. Gertrude Bell, the well-known, Mr. Margoliouth, Professor Margoliouth is well-known also. And for example, I can give you an example from Reverend Wigwam. You know, Reverend Wigwam was the author of Our Smallest Ally. In one of his books, he said about Lady Soma, she is a singularly cultivated and high-minded woman. She has been thoroughly well-educated. She speaks English well, and is well read in such authors as Scott Stevenson and so on. She yet remains a thorough Oriental and a devoted member of her own church. This was a presidential offer from English people. She was a great eyewitness between 1915 and 1918. Soma Hanum was an eyewitness in the Assyrian Mountains during the blood-stained marches to Bakuba and to Iraq. Firstly, she was like her people enduring the sufferings and the massacres of the terrible exodus to Persia and Bakuba. She lost her brothers. Hermes was hanged by the Turks. Ishaya perished in Hakkari. Mar Benjamin was murdered in Persia. Marcellus died in the Bakuba camp. She saw more than half of her compatriots dying during their dreadful flights. It was dramatic for everyone. Secondly, that's very important for lobbying. She wrote some precious accounts about these sad events. One can find 2 letters of her duplicated in the British Blue Book, published by Lord Bryce and compiled by Arnold Tugby, great historian. But the most important thing, she wrote a book in English in 1920 and entitled Assyrian Church Costume and the Murder of Marshamu. This book, you can find it on internet. You can buy it. It's easy to find. In this book, there is a chapter of the Great War. The Great War is dealing with this period and gives evidence on. She wrote, for example, in October, some 50 men of the Christians of Gawar were brought to Bashkali. The local government center and there killed them. In the district of Norberwa, the Turks plundered the houses of the peasants, taking even the children's socks. One diakon was most brutally treated. His mouth was filled with live coals. She also testified this was done by the direct order of the officer in command. That's important because that's proof that it was a genocide. So this book is very good to read. Je résume en français. J'étais en train de dire que Surma était une femme très cultivée qui a appris l'anglais toute petite parce que les Anglicans étaient présents au Wakari. Donc elle a appris l'anglais avec Rabbi Dr. Brown, comme elle l'a appelé. Et du coup, elle parlait vraiment un anglais parfait, pas comme moi, parce que moi c'est un peu à peu près. Du coup, ça lui a permis justement après, une fois de témoigner du génocide qu'ils ont vécu, qu'elle a vécu dans sa propre chair. Donc elle a écrit notamment des lettres qu'on peut trouver dans les archives anglaises, et également un ouvrage en anglais qu'elle a directement écrit en anglais parce qu'elle maîtrisait la langue très très bien. Third point. Suma Hanum was mainly a political leader and ambassador after the war. She was driven throughout the war between 1919 and 1926. Her brother, the Patriarch, sent her to London in the name of the Assyrian nation. That's proof in the archives. and the Church of the East, because she belonged to the Church of the East. After the death of Mark Paulus, her brother, the patriarch, her political and diplomatic part increased. She spent several months between 1919 and 1926 in England, confirmed by the Sisters of Bethany's diaries. She stayed by the sister when she was in London, by newspapers and archives. She wanted to submit the claims and position of her people before the British authorities and before those of Europe and the United States. She met important parliament members of the House of Lords and prominent ladies in charities aid. The most eminent member was the Archbishop of Canterbury, Randall Thomas Davidson, who was with his wife very close to Surma and the Marshall family. We can find precious correspondence between them in the Lambeth Palace archives. The Archbishop had an effect on political affairs and a great moral influence in his country. All the bishops of the Anglican Church were also members of the House of Lords, and Surma Hanum met them. Lady Surma met also Lord Curzon, a leading British personality, Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs. In December 1919, he engaged the debate in the House of Lords about the Assyrian question and mentioned Surma as a great personality and lady. Lady Surma has been present in the media also. Papers in the Manchester Garden titled Assyrians Called for Help, Princess Delegate. I'm putting some papers here. You can see there's in the Manchester Garden, October 27, Assyria calls for help, a princess delegate. I have other papers about this, a lot of papers. A woman delegate from Assyria. Assyria was always there. In this paper, I can read it in such, just two words about her. People who met Lady Surma during that earlier visit were much impressed by her ability, good sense, and courage. When she came 2 times to Britain, when she came back, she went also to the League of Nations Assembly in Geneva. Once again, papers, meeting, calls for refugees followed one another. I have at home, I don't know, perhaps 50 articles about her. And it was the same when she came to the United States, to go also to the United States in 1926. You can find the articles about her in the Christian Science Monitor, the Chicago Daily Tribune, the Los Angeles Times, and so on. Je résume aussi en français, juste pour dire que c'était une femme engagée politiquement, donc qui est venue en Angleterre 2 fois, qui est allée aux États-Unis. À chaque fois qu'elle est venue en Angleterre, elle a rencontré des députés au Parlement, notamment des Lords. À l'époque, il y a 2 chambres en Angleterre, donc c'est surtout avec les conservateurs des contacts. Et elle a rencontré aussi le ministre des Affaires étrangères de l'époque. Et elle a surtout fait des meetings, elle a fait des discours publics, elle a écrit pas mal d'articles, elle a été interviewée par des grands journaux qui existent toujours d'ailleurs, le Manchester Garden par exemple, c'est un grand journal de l'époque, qui existe toujours, et on peut trouver tout ça dans les archives. Donc c'est un travail gigantesque à faire si on veut travailler sur les archives, concernant les Assyriens notamment. She was also a deported lady in Cyprus in August 1933. Her deportation is linked with the massacres of Simele. Surma Hanum was aware of the massacre and a witness in this tragedy because she was living during that time in Mosul. Great Britain didn't respect, once again, its obligation towards Assyrian people. Iraq becomes earlier member of the League of Nations. In 1933, the Iraqi state decided to put an end to the Assyrian question, massacred more than 3,000 Assyrians. There are a lot of documents about Syria. French archives, English archives, everywhere. Cyprus archives also. So the Iraqi government decided to evict the members of the patriarchal family. Soma Hanum became a persona non grata. And so she goes to Cyprus. Colonel Stafford, the author of the Tragedy of Assyrians, wrote about Soma. Soma is capable and strong-minded, but circumstances have made her a fanatic. He added, she had without the least doubt been at the back of the anti-government propaganda. So, go away. She was deported to Cyprus 20 years. 20 years she was in Cyprus. She came back in 1954. She came to London, where she had a peaceful life, where she was old, in Ealing. 6 years later, she moved to the States, first to San Francisco and finally to Florida. Soma, d'abord en français, je vais juste résumer que Soma a été exilé de force à Chypre, parce qu'il y a eu les massacres de Simélé en 1933. La famille patriarcale devenait gênante pour l'Irak, qui était devenu un jeune État-nation. Du coup, on l'a exilé à Chypre pendant 20 ans, il était dans cette île. Et c'est à l'âge de 72 ans qu'elle est partie sur Londres finalement et qu'elle a quitté son Orient natal, toujours. Elle est décédée à Turlock aux États-Unis. An example to follow today. Point d'interrogation. First of all, Soma was a patriotic woman which was living in a male environment as a woman leader. It's a tradition in Assyrian history that sometimes the regency was taken by women. Some newspapers paid attention to this reality and called Lady Soma the new Semiramis. I have the article somewhere. You can trust me, I don't know a word. The Boston Daily Globe said from this book, she rules modern Assyria. In her book in 1920, Soma says, it's our belief that we are of the blood of the ancient Assyrian of Nineveh. That's true. Secondly, for appreciating her role, we have to insert her life into the context of the period. In 1915, it was war. Genocide was committed against Armenian and Assyrian people. It was a terrible proof for everyone, for all Assyrians, including Soma. More than half of the nation was destroyed in a few months. It was a great trauma. We must never forget that. In 1990, the peace conference started in Paris. The great powers had their own interests. They didn't want to continue endlessly the war, even for the small allies. Mandates for Britain and France, oil and economic interests, a new leadership in Turkey, were the new challenges. After many troubles, the Assyrians lost their homeland in Hakkari. Nevertheless, Soma Hanum gave visibility to the Assyrian question during this hard and troubled period as a political leader and cultivated woman. I would conclude by quoting Lady Soma, which declared in 1926 in The Guardian, "Alas, we have no homes. We are independent people and do not wish to live on all our lives. Idleness is bad for every nation. We are an ancient civilization and we do not want our nation to die. We want a means to live. Je vais juste traduire un peu en français. Je me pose la question, je vous pose la question, est-ce que c'est un exemple à suivre aujourd'hui? C'est une femme qui était patriotique, dans un milieu masculin, qui a pu s'exprimer devant les grands de ce monde. Mais pour apprécier ce rôle, il faut le mettre dans le contexte de l'époque 1915, le génocide, les massacres. Donc ce n'était pas facile pour elle pour pouvoir se battre. Mais elle a fait ce qu'elle a pu. Elle a donné une grande visibilité à la question assyro-chaldéenne, assyrienne. Et donc, rien que pour ça, c'est important parce qu'on a tous les documents de cette période et on sait au moins ce qui s'est passé grâce à ça aussi. Je vais juste finir, je vais traduire la phrase qu'elle a dite dans un des articles de journaux. Hélas, nous n'avons pas de foyer. Nous sommes un peuple indépendant et nous ne voulons pas vivre de l'aumône toute notre vie. L'oisiveté est mauvaise pour toute nation. Nous sommes une ancienne civilisation et nous ne voulons pas que notre nation meure. Pour vivre, nous voulons des moyens. I hope many Assyrian women will follow her courageous example. I see a lot of ladies here. Good. Was a great Assyrian woman, and I hope she will have success. I think a nation needs example, and Surma Hanum could be a good example.
Just a question. You mentioned that she was in Geneva at the League of Nations, but we know Assyrian historians.
I know.
They say that the British kept her in London in order to prevent her from attending at the Paris Peace Conference. What do you know about that, please?
I know. I have some sources about this. Articles like this, who said she was in Geneva, and some George Creed, some British who said she was going with them to Geneva.
No, I mean
No.
the Paris Peace Conference,
No,
1919.
no, in Paris.
No.
She was not in Paris.
Yeah, but they say
That's
that
true.
the British deliberately
Yes.
they kept her
Yes.
from attending.
Yes, they
Is that
kept
correct?
her. Yeah, that's correct.
Thank you.
Because Paris was difficult for her to go. Because there was two France and British people that they decided.
Claire, I want to thank you personally. Thank you very much. I remember the day I received her book. I opened it and I was looking through it and I cried, Claire. I cried because a few months before we met in Lyon and you were talking about this book. You were so full of passion about Sormachan and her work. And it's like a virus. So you gave it to me. I have it inside of me, and I really hope a lot of Assyrian men and women get inspired from your work and hard work of Sormachan. You brought her work into a huge picture, and I think she will be very, very grateful and thankful for what you have done for her, but also for us as an Assyrian nation, Assyrian women. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Claire. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of the convention for today. So see you at the party at 9 o'clock here. Thank you.